So, why is the source of value important to discern? Why is it important to figure out what morality source of value is? Anyone have any ideas? Michael. Michael, right?
Yes.
Why does why should we look for morality source of value?
Oh,
Yeah, Kyle.
freedom to make your own decision.
Yeah, everyone should write this down. Autonomy means the ability to make your own choices. Great.
So that's deontology's source of value. And so then you can sort of see why deontology would focus more on the means of the action. Because it's not really that like we achieve some end result, it's that the decisions that we make, it's the actions that we take that are what a judge is by. Because that's really what makes humans unique. It's that we can make a decision. That's what a judge is on. It judges us based on our intent, what we want to make our decision. Because we made that choice. That's what a judge is based on. And yeah. The phrase that people call this a lot of the times is called practical reason. So you guys should write that down. Practical reason is more or less synonymous with our ability to reason. And from there, our ability to reason and then make a decision based on that reason.
So, someone tell me what practical reason means. You guys should have literally written this down. Yeah.
The ability to choose. How do we make that decision? So it is about making decisions. That's good. But there's one slight step right before we make the decision, the practical reason.
Reasoning? Reasoning?
Yeah, exactly. So, what do you mean by reasoning, Anita?
Like, I guess evaluating the situation and choosing something to do.
Yeah, exactly. So it's more than just like making a choice. Like it's more than just sort of like knee-jerk reacting to something. It's reasoning about a situation and then choosing a reasoned choice. So, Michael, can you explain to me what practical reasoning is?
Our ability to reason about the situation.
So just like I consider you.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this is totally right. So he said. Yeah, exactly. So practical reasoning is the ability to first reason about a situation and then to act on that reason, to make a choice based on whatever reason you apply.
Like if I was choosing to buy either pancakes or tacos, right? If I made like a pro and con list of all them, thought about them, and then I just flipped it. That is not like using practical reason because the decision was entirely arbitrary. It's a question. Even though I did reason, it has to be able to make a decision based on that reason. Yeah, exactly. Right. So that's what deontology finds as source of value. Then utilitarianism comes to the conclusion, comes to something different.
You guys should be writing this down. We're on to utilitarianism.
Utilitarianism isolates the source of value in what's called states of affairs. Does anyone know what states of affairs might mean?
Yeah.
How society is doing.
So this is going to be different than like a state and like a think more along terms of like
It's like a physical state.
yeah. So they will else will give it a shot. State of affairs.
Yeah, exactly. A state of affairs is really just a situation. Like, there's like a state of affairs now that lots of people are in the multipurpose or in the UT Austin LLS. That is a state of affairs. So, utilitarianism finds particular states of affairs value in that it finds like a state of affairs where more people are alive is more valuable than a state of affairs where less people are alive. So, what you feel utilitarianism uses to judge these types of situations is merely like physical results, where paleontology, because it finds source of value in choices, looks at the means of the action. Utilitarianism doesn't really care what you wanted to get from doing the action or how you took the action. What it really cares about is what happened from the action. And if that's something that saves more lives or produces the greatest good for the greatest number, usually defined by happiness, then it finds that action to be more. If it is promoting the source of value.
So, what is the source of value for utilitarianism? Yeah, exactly. What does that mean? Someone else? What does state of affairs mean? Yeah, Kyle.
What the situation is.
Yeah, exactly. So utility finds valuable the end state of affairs. After all actions are said and done, what have we done? Plus and minus. We created more good than bad.
Yeah. So now what we're going to talk about is how to take this belief that how to take utilitarianism belief that its end states of affairs are valuable, and try and justify a utilitarian concept.
Yeah. So, as in all things in debate, you can't just say what morality source of value is. You can't just be like, oh well, it'd be convenient for me if morality source of value was state of affairs, and so I'm a utilitarian. No, just like everything else in debate, you have to justify it. That's what we're going to talk about.
So, what we found is that there are essentially three kinds of justifications for utilitarianism.
So
Firstly,
you guys write this down.
yeah. Firstly, there's necessity arguments that we have to be utilitarian. Secondly, there are
justification.
One more time.
Justifications for
These are different types of justifications. So none of what Graham is going to say right now would actually warrant utilitarianism. He's just sort of talking about it.
So I can tell you what the three categories of justifications are, and then I'll give you examples of what those justifications are.
Yeah.
So
First, what do you mean by necessity?
so like we don't really have an option. We have to make utilitarian calculations, and we have to take actions based upon what the best end states of affairs.
Yeah, that's correct.
So, how many of you guys have heard? Yeah.
You said necessitate arguments?
The necessity. What do you call it?
Yeah. So this approach basically says that we have to make decisions in a utilitarian way. That's the only possible way that we could coherently make a reason to do it.
So, how many of you guys have had a debate round? Okay, just a number of you. How many of you guys have heard the argument that, well, if you were dead, you couldn't have morality? Gotta be more than that. Yeah. This is what I like to refer to as the super secret argument. Because no one ever knows it's coming. It is decidedly false. So this argument is that, well, we have to be utilitarians because if we didn't try to keep people alive, people would be dead, and then they couldn't do more. So, quite simply, we have to be utilitarians. Yes. Life is a prerequisite to any sort of other benefit.
So is this an example of a necessity argument?
This is a necessity argument.
Yeah, this is an example of the utilitarianism is necessary type of justification. So, who wants to give me an example of a utilitarianism is necessary argument? You can give me the one Graham just gave me. Yeah. So unless you're alive, you can't have a wall system. We have to be alive. So
Another example of these kinds of arguments would be that if society is like full of violence, there's no police, people are like getting shot on the streets everywhere, that people wouldn't really stop to like theorize about morality. They wouldn't sort of like become philosophers, like sit in their armchair and sort of stroke their goatee and be like, I think morality is this. No, they would just be like trying to survive. So what utilitarianism promote, I'll get to in a second. So what utilitarianism promote is end states of affairs where everyone is safe so that morality can exist in terms of like you can have moral theories, you can have discussions about it.
So does that mean that moral systems, just in general, are based on a coherent society, like with some sort of order? Like, in other words, you could have deontology or utilitarianism if there was no coherent society, right?
Yeah.
It would just be based on instinctual or
Yeah. They wouldn't make choices, they wouldn't really think about whether they're doing moral or immoral, they would just do things fine. So thinking back to what we said earlier, what was one of the definitions of active morality? That was like first one we talked about. Right or wrong, and then what did we try to unpack that definition? Like why might we call something wrong or call something right?
Like generating obligations.
Yeah, generating obligations. So we call something moral because we want to obligate people to do it. Because we want to encourage that kind of behavior. Because morality is a guide to action.
How many of you guys have written down on your paper, morality is a guide to action? If your hand isn't up, it should be, so write that down. Yeah, cool.
So if we have to be utilitarians, and morality told us to do things that were not utilitarian, would people listen to morality?
No.
No, right? Because people just like wouldn't care. But there's some like they think like well, there's some like odd system that like some people think about. It really doesn't matter because I have to be utilitarian. I have to protect myself and keep myself alive. Let's go ahead and see how morality being a guide to action. Utilitarianism would take advantage of this and say that well, if guides are action, then we have to be utilitarians. Morality so may as well just tell us to be utilitarian, that we should be doing this because we have to do it anyways. So the second section arguments.
You guys can be writing this down.
Is we decided to call equality arguments. Does anyone have a guess as to what these arguments might be? So maybe. Yeah.
maximizing quality for the greatest amount of people.
So that's an example of what utilitarians would say that we should do. We should maximize equality, make sure we're treating everyone equally. But the way that utilitarians would use equality to justify themselves is that, well, if all people are equal, then the example where we're choosing to mean fate or save more people means that we should save more people because like 5 or however many people are here is greater than 1. And then if all of us are equal, I should get special treatment and be let live at the expense of all of you guys.
Yeah, so if everyone's life is worth equal amount, it would be immoral for me to choose to let Graham live and let you guys die, but I would be letting 50 people die and only letting 1 person live. That would be me making Graham worth 50 of you guys, you know? Okay, so who can explain to me what the basis of the equality arguments for utilities?
Wait, really quick, is it equality or quality?
Equality.
Oh.
Equality.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for asking that. I'm glad we figured that out. So, can we give you an example of an equality argument for util? It can be, well, yeah.
If you have to choose between killing one person to save, well, like this example, According to the equality argument, you should kill Graham because it saves 50 lives.
And why is that equality?
Because every life is worth the same. So the more you save, the
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Every life is worth the same, and so the more lives that are saved, the better we are. That's why we obligated to kill Graham, so I could save lots of you guys.
So we have an example of an author named David Kaminsky, who people very popularly run to justify utilitarianism. He's making this equality argument. So you should all try and below this, take notes on it. Kaminsky, C-U-M-M-I-S-K-E-Y.
You guys should all flow this while Graham reads it. You don't have paper, you can just follow along on your laptop.
Yeah. So, since all people are equal, we must maximize the number of people saved. David Kaminsky. Since the basis of Kant's principle, rational nature exists and ends itself, the reasonable solution involves promoting the conditions necessary for rational beings. If I sacrifice some for the sake of other rational beings, I do not use them arbitrarily. I do not deny the unconditional value of beings. A person may have dignity and unconditional and incomparable value, but as rational beings, person also has fundamental equality, which dictates that some must sometimes give way for the sake of others. If one focuses on the equal value of all rational beings, then equal consideration dictates that one must sacrifice some the same way.
Okay, who thinks they know what Kaminsky said? Who thinks they know?
He uses a lot of philosophical jargon at the beginning, talking about unconditional values. Some of these through.
Yeah, Jared, right?
Yeah. Pretty much is it that being rational beings and how we are all equal, that it would be okay to sacrifice one to save more?
Why would it be okay?
That's I don't know.
Who wants to help Jared out? Why would it be okay for Kaminsky to sacrifice one of us to save one? And so what does that mean?
If one person's value, then it's better for one person to die than
Yeah. It's just sort of math, right? If everyone's equal, if everyone is worth 1 unit, then it is advantageous for us to let one person die than 50 people die. Because we're only losing 1 unit instead of 50.
Yeah. The reason that he uses words like this respects the unconditional value of human beings and treats them as rational agents is because he's specifically answering the other common ethical theory, deontology, saying why, well, even if you think that people are unconditionally valuable, that it's our rationality that gives us this value, that we would then still have to treat people, equally, everyone's equally rational, until we maximize the number of people saved, even if we sacrificing one for others. So this indicates that the debates can oftentimes become even slightly more complex than just what is the source of value, because some authors attempt to sort of hijack other authors' sources of value and saying that, well, my theory is actually better than yours is, and achieving what you claim to be the source of value, even though your source of value is also wrong. So can anyone tell me why it would be beneficial to read this particular argument to justify utilitarianism, especially if you knew that your opponent would try to run standard ecology? Yes?
It's the most good whatever circumstances.
What do you mean?
You're giving up the life of someone to save a fair amount of people. And related to deontology, you're going to be able to say it's not wrong to kill that one person.
Well, that's a good explanation of the difference between deontology and utility. What we're trying to look for is why might it be strategic to run David Kaminsky's argument against the deontological framework if you're trying to justify utilitarianism.
This is a hard question, guys, so if you don't No, it doesn't go back.
Because you can link into the deontological sort of standard better than the deontological case.
Yeah. So what do you mean by link?
You can better achieve the deontological standard of moral or human dignity via utilitarianism than the deontological case.
Yeah, I really like your answer. I really like the way that you're talking about how it interacts, but push it a little bit further. How are you doing deontology better than the deontology?
Because you respect humans' inherent dignity by saving the most people, and like 1 for 50 would be respecting the 50 people's moral dignity more so than if you would say one person sacrificed 50 people.
Yeah, I think that's a really good answer. What's your name again?
Sam.
Sam. So I really like Sam's answer here, because he describes first exactly how these arguments interact. That in this case, the useful argument would respond directly to the deontology argument and link in their framework. What that really means is show why utility does deontology better than deontology itself. And then, even after that, I think, in-depth described the exact reason why. That for Kaminsky, saving 50 people is respecting human dignity way more than just saving.
Yeah, so if you're trying to use like one of the first arguments from the necessity approach to justify utilitarianism, you'd still have to make arguments about why end states of affairs should matter in terms of morality. And you still have to beat the deontologist arguments on that level for why we should talk about the means of the action. And then you'd also have to prove that why the end state needs to be utilitarians. David Kaminsky lets you sort of hijack the deontologist argument, accept part of their argument, and still justify utilitarianism. So you can win on multiple levels with these types of things.
Yeah, so let's briefly rewind to when we discussed the source of value. Who can tell me what the source of value for utilitarianism is? Yeah, okay.
Like the state of affairs.
Yeah, if anyone doesn't have that written down, then utilitarianism's source of value is states of affairs, write it down. Yeah, good answer. And who can tell me what deontology's source of value is? Yeah, okay.
Individual ability to choose.
Yeah, individual ability to choose, dignity, whatever. Let's think about these two types of arguments we made over the past. The first, the necessity argument, still faces its justification in a state of affairs being the most valuable thing, right? We're talking about we have to be alive, which is the state of affairs, in order to be moral. We have to live in like a comfortable world where we can talk about morals to be moral. It's really based in utility's own source of value. The second argument, however, Kaminsky, when we're talking about how you can hijack the deontology argument, is saying that even if we accept deontology's source of value, which is human dignity or the ability to choose, we respect that more through utility than we would through deontology. So this is why Sam's answer is good, that we can link into deontology, because we are hijacking their source of value, human dignity, and saying it actually leads to utilitarianism.
So really quickly, the final argument, final class argument that utilitarians make is about action guidance. So before we action guidance.
So we're on the kind of action. So action guidance.
So before we mentioned the necessity approach, sort of took advantage of those arguments. But it's sort of an indirect way. These arguments specifically say that utilitarianism provides us a clear guide to action. We take quantified version of the benefits of an action and multiply it by the probability. That gives us the expected benefit. And then we just compare the expected benefit for all the possible actions we can take. So we take the one with the greatest benefit. So because utilitarianism can do this with any action, you can always find a mathematical solution to this problem. You can do it. Whereas other systems, if they're absolute sign constraints, you can never do X. if we would do that with whatever action we chose, we couldn't even make a decision at all. For instance, in the example of shooting in the face, if someone said, well, we could never cause the death of a person, then if you chose to act and shot me in the face and caused death to a person, you'd be like, oh, I guess I can't do that. But the other action, if you just do nothing, arguably, you cause the death of everyone else in the building. So you still cause the death of an innocent person. So in that situation, it would be impossible for you to act and kill someone and not act, which means that like morality is sort of like implode on itself. Like there's just absolutely nothing it can tell you to do, even do nothing.
So who can explain what the action guidance way of justifying utilitarianism is? Any ideas?
Comparing the expected net benefit of course of action via like mathematics.
So someone else, I like that, yeah. Let's have someone else try and explain it in maybe a little bit less big words.
The actions that you act.
Yeah, but there's something about this that makes it about action guidance. So yeah, that's definitely the case. With utilitarianism, you compare the two things and always choose the greater good. But there's a second part of this argument. Yeah.
It gives a definite moral guide. Like, just respecting the human worth of somebody is very vague. With utilitarianism, you can easily choose what is moral through the expected benefit.
Yeah, exactly. So with other types of systems of morality, like deontology, maybe in this case you are put in a situation where you just can't act. Like I cannot not kill Graham because I'd be violating him. I can't kill you guys because you're violating you. So what do I do? You know, I'm screwed. But with utility, you always know what to do. All you have to do is a math problem. You just think about what is the most likely action could create the best good. And then you do it. You can always choose what to do. And so if morality is a guide to action, then utility must be the right way to do things because you will always know what to do.
Alright, so we are at the end of the lecture now. It is lunchtime. So next time when we come back after lunch, we're going to talk about deontology, how that's bad.
Yeah. Very lunch, guys. We come back, talk about deontology.